C. Snow, J. Carroll, and M. Allgood, Survival in Emergency Escape from Passenger Aircraft, reached this conclusion. Within a few seconds, a passenger must make a perilous journey from seat to sanctuary through fire, smoke, and a maze of physical and human barriers. Survival depends largely upon the number and location of exits, which of these are blocked by flame or impact damage, the human help he receives along the way, and the intensity of the fire and smoke within the cabin. But in addition to these extrinsic factors, his chance of survival is also influenced by physical and mental attributes of his own that may enable or prevent his effective exploitation of the short time he has remaining. The Tenerife crash offered dramatic examples of the challenges discussed in that Snow-Carroll-Allgood report. It helped generate enormous interest in the topic. In the decades since the Tenerife crash, much professional work has been done in this area. Behavioral experts, such as psychologist Daniel Johnson and Dr. John Duffy and others, broke important new ground with their work as they examined who can best respond in a severe emergency, as well as their studies about the long-term effects of being in a terrible accident. They and others included in this book were pioneers in this field and deserve much credit for the attention they've brought to this field. Which brings us back to Warren and Caroline Hopkins, who were among the first to evacuate the Pan Am plane, thanks mainly to Warren's cool-headedness. This book would not be possible without the wonderful cooperation of the Hopkins family. The death of Caroline Hopkins a few years after this effort got underway was a severe impediment to the project's momentum. In the intervening years, most of the survivors have also passed away. Nevertheless, pseudonyms have often been used in place of some passengers' real names because of the circumstances of their deaths in this crash. Real names were used for the survivors who I interviewed later, or for those victims who received extensive media coverage. But a renewed vigor by the Hopkins family and me to reach closure has resulted in the completion of this book, which may help bring some sense of completion to the victims' families. It's commonly assumed that everyone in a jet crash will be killed, but that's not true. U.S. government statistics show that far more than half of all passengers in plane crashes of the last several decades have survived. Who can best respond in such a crisis? There are obvious categories of passengers, such as soldiers, private pilots, and crew members who've been trained to respond in difficult situations. But this book will also make the emphatic point that those Pan Am passengers who had taken a minute or two after they boarded in order to understand the safety instructions given in the cabin had a significantly better chance of survival than those who paid no attention. This simple act, paying attention to the flight attendants and learning what to do if something bad happens, is an important tool for survival, as discussed in this book by several aviation safety officials. It's just as true today as it was in 1977. The FAA's Civil Aerospace Medical Institute, or CAMI, the department's current name, has studied and continues to study crash survivability, including passenger evacuation patterns, crew training, and air traffic controller language. The efforts to understand this complex, important area began in earnest not long after the Canary Islands crash. As a CAMI official said in 2015, survivors of the Tenerife accident have provided aviation cabin safety researchers with a wonderful insight into how people behave in airplane emergencies. The passenger successes and failures from this one event remain relevant and are illustrative of the potential benefits of continuing the efforts to improve passenger safety awareness in the face of marked public apathy. That was Cynthia L. McLean, a CAMI Senior Human Factors Research Specialist in the FAA's Protection and Survival Research Laboratory in Oklahoma City. She made these observations in an email to the author. The field of passenger safety has received increased attention from the industry and from federal agencies ever since the Canary Islands crash. But now, more than 40 years after one of the most horrible disasters imaginable, complacency may be setting in. Many airline passengers continue to ignore airline safety procedures, either out of indifference or sublimated fear. A 2007 presentation by FAA Human Factors specialists Cynthia McLean and G.A. Mac McLean was titled Passenger Safety Awareness Reprise 2007, Still Ignorant After All These Years. Much can be read into that title.